There's a man watching this right now who smiled today. He laughed at a joke. He said, "I'm good," when someone asked how he was doing. But when the room gets quiet and the distractions fade, he knows the truth. He's drowning. Not in some dramatic, visible way. No one would ever know. That's the worst part. He's silently failing at his purpose, his relationships, his health, his potential, and nobody is coming to save him. This video is the wake-up call no one gave me. The conversation every man deserves, but few ever get. And I'm going to show you how men thousands of years ago, kings, warriors, slaves who became rulers, faced the exact same battles you're facing right now, and won. Stay with me. Let me tell you what silent failure actually looks like. It's the man who has a job but no mission. It's the man who has a phone full of contacts but no real brotherhood. It's the man who's breathing but hasn't felt alive in years. It's the man who keeps saying, "I'll start Monday," but Monday never comes. 90% of men today are living on autopilot, going through the motions, collecting paychecks and wasting weekends, and calling it a life. But deep down, there's a voice whispering, "This isn't who you were meant to be." And that voice is right. Here's what nobody tells you about failure. The loudest failures aren't the most dangerous. Bankruptcy, public embarrassment, rock bottom. Those force you to rebuild. No, the most dangerous failure is the quiet kind. The kind where nothing is technically wrong, but nothing is right either. You're not broke, but you're not building wealth. You're not alone, but you're deeply lonely. You're not depressed on paper, but you can't remember the last time you felt fire in your chest. The silent failure is a slow death, and millions of men are dying this way without ever realizing it. But here's what gives me hope. This isn't new. Men have faced this crossroads for thousands of years, and the ones who broke free, their stories were written down so we could learn from them. Let me introduce you to some of them. You know the story of Samson, strongest man who ever lived, chosen by God before he was even born, supernatural power that could defeat entire armies. This man killed a lion with his bare hands. He wiped out 1,000 soldiers with a donkey's jawbone. He was unstoppable. But where did Samson end up? Blind, chained, grinding grain in a prison like a slave. How does the strongest man in history end up in chains? One word: comfort. Samson got comfortable. He stopped guarding his purpose. He let the wrong woman into his life, not because he didn't know better, because discipline felt like too much work. Delilah didn't defeat Samson with weapons. She defeated him with comfort, with pleasure, with "just tell me your secret, baby." And he gave it up. Not because he was weak physically, but because he was weak where it mattered most. Listen to me carefully. Your Delilah might not be a woman. It might be the screen in your pocket. It might be the video games numbing your ambition. It might be the comfort of a job you hate but won't leave because change is scary. Comfort is where purpose goes to die. Samson had every gift imaginable, and he wasted it because he chose ease over discipline. How many men today are living the Samson story? Gifted, capable, full of potential, but slowly giving away their power to things that feel good in the moment but destroy them over time. The silent failure isn't dramatic. It's Samson laying his head in Delilah's lap one more time, thinking he can handle it, until he wakes up in chains. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're not enough? Like the thing you're supposed to do is too big for you? Like someone made a mistake putting this dream in your heart because clearly you're not the guy? If that's you, you need to meet Moses. Moses was chosen to free an entire nation from slavery, to confront the most powerful ruler on earth, to lead millions of people through the wilderness. And what was his response when God called him? "Who am I?" I'm not a good speaker. I stutter. Send someone else. Anyone else. The man who would part the Red Sea didn't believe he could give a speech. The man who would speak directly with God thought his voice wasn't good enough. This is what silent failure looks like in its early stages, disqualifying yourself before you even begin. Moses had excuse after excuse, and honestly, they sounded reasonable. I'm not qualified. I don't have the skills. I've made too many mistakes. He even had killed a man and ran away to hide in the desert for 40 years. 40 years of silent failure. 40 years of hiding from his calling. But God didn't choose Moses because Moses was confident. He chose Moses because Moses was available. And eventually, reluctantly, he said yes. That yes changed human history. How many men are stuck in their own desert right now, hiding from the thing they know they're supposed to do because they don't feel ready? Here's the truth. You will never feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Obedience comes before confidence. Moses stuttered through his calling and became one of the greatest leaders in history. What's your excuse? If there's one story every silently struggling man needs to hear, it's Joseph. At 17 years old, Joseph had a dream. God showed him a vision of greatness. His brothers and even his parents would bow before him. He was destined for something massive. So what happened next? His own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. He went from favored son to slave, overnight. But Joseph didn't quit. He worked with excellence. He rose to become the head of his master's house. Things were finally turning around. Then his master's wife falsely accused him of assault. He went from trusted servant to prisoner, again, overnight. This is where most men would break. This is where most men would say, God, I did everything right. I stayed faithful. And this is what I get? But Joseph kept going. In prison, he interpreted dreams for Pharaoh's servants. One of them promised to remember him when he got out. The servant forgot about Joseph for 2 full years. Let me do the math for you. From the pit to the palace, from 17 to 30 years old, Joseph waited 13 years. 13 years of slavery, false accusations, prison, and broken promises. And then, in a single day, he went from prisoner to second in command of all Egypt. His dream didn't die. It was just delayed. And here's what most people miss. Those 13 years weren't wasted. They were preparing. Every trial built his character. Every setback taught him something he'd need to rule a nation. Maybe you're in your pit season right now. Maybe you're in prison. Maybe someone who promised to help you forgot about you. Don't you dare quit. Joseph's story teaches us that delay is not denial. Your silent season is not your final season. Keep your integrity when no one is watching. Stay faithful when it makes no logical sense. Your palace is coming, but you have to survive the prison first. I saved David for last, because his story contains everything. The highest highs, the lowest lows, and the redemption every failing man needs to hear. David was a shepherd boy, the youngest, the smallest, the forgotten one. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint a king, David's own father didn't even bother to bring him from the fields. But God chose him anyway. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. David killed Goliath when every other soldier was terrified. He became the greatest king Israel ever had. He wrote psalms that people still read 3,000 years later. But let me tell you about David's silent failure. There was a season when David should have been at war, but he stayed home. He got comfortable on the rooftop while his men were fighting. And from that rooftop, he saw Bathsheba. You know what happened next. Adultery, deception, murder to cover it up. The man after God's own heart became an adulterer and a murderer in the span of weeks. David's fall started with one decision. He stayed where he was when he should have been where he was needed. comfort, passivity, idle eyes looking for something to fill the void. Sound familiar? But here's why David's story matters for every man watching this. David didn't stay fallen. When the prophet Nathan confronted him, David didn't make excuses. He didn't blame Bathsheba. He didn't justify it. He just said, "I have sinned against the Lord." And in Psalm 51, he cried out, "Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a right spirit within me." David's sin was recorded forever. His failure is one of the most famous in history, but so is his repentance. God didn't call David the man after my own heart because David was perfect. He called him that because David always came back. Maybe you've fallen. Maybe you've done things you're ashamed of. Maybe you think you've disqualified yourself. You haven't. The same God who restored David is offering you the same grace, but you have to come back. You have to get up. You have to say, "I'm not staying here." So here's where we are. Samson teaches us that comfort will steal everything if we let it. Moses teaches us that inadequacy is a lie. Start before you're ready. Joseph teaches us that delay is not denial. Stay faithful in the pit. And David teaches us that no matter how far you've fallen, you can always come back. You're watching this by accident. Something brought you here. Something in you knows that the silent failure has to end. So here's what I want you to do. Step 1. Identify the lie you've been believing. Is it, "I'm not enough"? Is it, "It's too late"? Is it, "I'll start when I'm ready"? Name it. Step 2. Choose one area of your life to rebuild. Not everything, just one wall. Your health, your finances, your faith, your relationships. Pick one. Step 3. Take one action today, not tomorrow, today, before you go to sleep. Prove to yourself that you're different now. The man I talked about today didn't have advantages you don't have. They had the same doubts, the same failures, the same fear. The only difference, they refused to stay down. And history remembered them. Your story isn't over. Your best chapters haven't been written yet. But you need to pick up the pen. I believe in you. More importantly, God believes in you. He chose David when his own father forgot about him. He chose Moses with a stutter. He stayed with Joseph in the prison. He hasn't forgotten about you either. Now rise up. The world is waiting for the man you're about to become. If this video spoke to you, I need you to do 2 things. First, subscribe if you haven't. I'm building something here for men who refuse to settle. If that's you, you belong here. Second, leave a comment telling me which story hit you the hardest. Was it Samson, Joseph, David? I read every single comment. And third, share this with a brother who needs to hear it. You might not know what he's going through, but this might be the message that saves him. I'll see you in the next one. Stay dangerous.